Alongside Professor Thomas Lewis and Dr. Helen Hall, both from Nottingham Trent University, I always spent a lot of time explaining ideas about human rights, the British Constitution and the rule of law to a range of audiences, undergraduates, school pupils, and community groups who requested talks. How could we facilitate this in a way which was both fun and engaging, but was also interactive, and gave space for participants to formulate their own response to the ideas which they were encountering? The task of designing a constitution for a desert island society had been used for a while as an exercise with undergraduates. Could we use this as the basis for a game? Yes, in short, but it requires a radical transformation. In a nutshell, we wanted for learners to gain an understanding of, firstly, basic constitutional principles, organs and functions. For instance, a legislature making laws and courts having to interpret them. Secondly, why a constitution is needed, the balance between individual and collective rights. Thirdly, why constitutions and laws need to be fair if they are going to be stable and successful. And fourthly, how equality and human rights protection benefit all members of society and not just minorities.
At the start of the game, the character cards are dealt face down. The players then shake a dice to see who will be the first leader. The first leader is tasked with choosing one of the high laws from the card. These will overrule any lesser laws which are made in the course of the game. Some of them prohibit discrimination on the grounds of skin colour or gender. Others allow the leader to collect a tax from certain groups of goblins, and others impose respect for goblin religion. After and only after the high law has been chosen, the players turn over their character cards. This is important because in choosing, the leader does not know what traits their goblin character has. The players then take turns to roll the dice and move around the board. When they pass through one of the stations, they may collect happiness tokens, but just as human beings are made happy by different things, so are goblins, so they need to look at their character card to see whether, for example, their goblin likes shopping and will get happiness tokens from the trading hut, or is sporty and likes swimming in the waterfall. Every time that a player lands on a red square, the Goblin Council issue an ordinance. This is a lower law which is only going to be valid if it is compatible with the high law. The Goblin Council share the prejudices of Goblin society and tend to favour males and green goblins. If there is any doubt as to whether a law should apply or be struck down, the players have to negotiate and decide among themselves, with the Goblin leader having the casting vote. This shows how apparently simple rules can be quite complicated when you try to apply them, and how slippery words can be. It's also an opportunity to learn that if you habitually pick a self-interested interpretation, it can come back and bite you when you are on the receiving end and need a sympathetic interpretation of a law. If a player feels that the legal regime is fundamentally unjust and not working for them, they can, on their turn, declare a revolution and invite other goblins to join them. If the revolution succeeds, all laws, including the high law, are scratched, and the new leader can choose a new high law. However, if it fails, all of the revolutionaries will be consigned to the swamp, the Goblin Punishment Zone, for 3 turns. The outcome of the revolution depends on a roll of the dice. The more goblins who join in, the higher the number the leader needs to shake in order to survive. So just like in real societies, the more people who are aggrieved, the harder it is for those in power to retain power. There is no limit to the number of revolutions which can take place during a particular game, but they tend to be disruptive and a distraction and make it hard for everyone to get on with the business of collecting happiness tokens. Essentially, it's hard for anyone to prosper in a society where a section of the population are feeling oppressed and aggrieved. The winner of the game is the first player to fill their card with happiness tokens, or alternatively, if a time limit has been set, the player with the most happiness tokens when the time limit is reached.
After the game, players are usually buzzing and tend to be full of questions and ideas. The nature and content of the reflection depends on the participants, from primary school children all the way through to university students, but it often leads to further discussions about constitutions, law, human rights, political philosophy, history, or simply ideas about fairness and responsibility in a primary school. We've developed a range of different resources on our website to help facilitate discussions in different contexts. One crucial factor about the game is that all versions of it are detached from everyday reality in the 21st century, for example, a goblin kingdom. This distance makes candid conversations about prejudice and discrimination possible without the usual inhibitions. The more that players step into the world of the game, the more that they get out of it. Different contexts appeal to different people, so we have developed historical and young adult horror versions of Brave New World. These also allow for varying levels of complexity and some adjustment in learning outcomes. We've gathered positive feedback from a range of participants from across the world, including England, Wales, continental Europe, the United States and Latin America.